Now, I wanted to go over some of the gameplay and rules that I've made so far with this new card game. Of course, anyone that's new to this episode, I came across old cards with a whole bunch of my own idea for a card game, and so I'm seeing if I can reincarnate or revivify this thing and kind of actually make it into a full-fledged idea. And so I did want to go over a couple of ideas that I had for this game, especially kind of the gameplay and the mechanics of it, just to explain, because I figured last episode really didn't go into how the game works. It just kind of had what I had going on. So I want, ultimately, in a nutshell here, I want a linear kind of moving style battle map that consists of two players sitting next to each other side by side, kind of looking over this battlefield and moving cards back and forth, and ultimately just trying to kind of take over people's castles, I guess. And so I plan on having, hopefully I can put like a some sort of image of what I imagine kind of being how the gameplay will look like. But there'll be multiple columns or rows, whatever ones go this way, that pretty much are dictated by weather and nature cards that kind of give a flavor of what's going on in this situation. So let me see if I can pull one up. I have a weather here. But for example, I have this terraforming terrain card, Great Plains. And so pretty much at the top of this, there'll be like a Great Plains. There will be a... I should have came more prepared for this. Forgotten Graveyard, and maybe even a Water of Deep Depths. I'm trying to make sure this looks... And a card, say for this band of troops, would progress through each phase, depending on the movement that they have. So a movement of one, this Nature of Forgotten Graveyards requires one movement to go into the place, into the area. And so you could move your troops along, but of course with three movements wouldn't be allowed to go in there. But if I had, say, a card, I'm pretty sure, not to get into the weeds with this, but I have a card that's amphibious that allows you to go from land to water and back again, that has a movement of three that could progress through this entire space. And with stuff like this range being 0, it can only attack things that are in the same column as it, or range that has, or maybe, I don't know how that would work. But ranges would depend on how far you can shoot away from or attack outside of your low range of area. But then you have nature cards that you can play on top of these we have weather cards that you can play on top of the terrain cards that would then alter them. So this one, this Flash Flood, would make this into a water area. And water areas have a move of 3, which means that anything that's in there already would, of course, get cleaned out, and nothing else could go in there until that Flash Flood is resolved. And so that's kind of how mid-game would play. I have a limited amount of screen I can play with. But, of course, if we kind of shift it over, you'd have a castle on one side, pretty much where your leader would sit. And so if I pull out a leader card real quick, once I find one. So like say I had leader Queen Shelny here. She would sit kind of behind my castle in the upright position rather than horizontal like those people. And you would spawn basic troops into a castle that, of course, has... I'm playing around with either 3 or 5 slots. And so as long as you have the availability for... in your castle, you can continue to play... Oh, where did all my troop guys go? You can continue to play people in here and have them move forward. But once you kind of get locked up, or there's people here, or... I'm hoping any of this makes sense. Let's see, this Command Influence Riots allows you to play this card, Riots, in the castle of another person, which would pretty much would prevent them from having a spot available to summon more troops in there. I'm trying to move everything else so I can be seeing the camera. So ultimately you have an area where these basic troops have to be played first in order to progress throughout the field. And the whole goal is to be going over to the other side of the field and destroying either the castle or the leader. I don't know for sure how I want to do that, but ultimately your goal is to defeat the other player, however you deem fit. But ultimately that's kind of where it's sitting now. I'm really hoping I can kind of provide some extra little images that I can put in, displaying exactly kind of what my idea is of this. But ultimately, I'm trying to think of any other things that I can. These food offerings would ultimately be kind of the resource card for animal troops. I plan on having some sort of kind of animal or natural troops outside of the basic troops. You have building supplies for constructed troops like catapults or battering rams or any other kind of machine rather than an actual human group, I guess. Dark Soul, we have this blood sacrifice card would be used to summon demonic ones, and I believe there's some sort of kind of good alternative. I think there's like a heavenly offering somewhere in here that allows you to get like spiritual troops. And so there's ultimately, there'd be all sorts of kind of different things in that realm here. But at the end of the day, that's kind of how I want things to go. So if I were just kind of just play around with setting up the game, I'm thinking, I believe I wanted each player, if I'm remembering correctly, to kind of search through their deck and find 3 original, I'm looking at like my notes here as well, the 3 original terrain cards that they would place face down at the very top of the page. And so you be in control of 3, your opponent will be in control of 3, and then once the game starts, you'd flip those over. But in the meantime, you draw 7 cards, because I feel like 7 is just a good number, but I don't know. I also don't know what's like trademarked. I have no clue if there's certain game mechanics that are trademarked that prevent me from actually using them in my game, because I've heard how strenuous Pokemon is. I'm actually worried that they might get me for this. So let's see here. I'll start off a hand with a couple of Mercenary Archers, Rotten Bishops, Ground Tremors, and so I'd say that's I'd also feel like you'd have to pick out a ruler too. So I feel like there'd be some sort of rule that allows you to pick out a ruler from your card. It has to be a 1 out of a first phase, whatever that's supposed to mean. I could do King Terrence the Popular. That ruler would go here, kind of right there. These would all go. Move my Baldur's Gate CD right there, and then my deck would probably go like somewhere around here, the very end of the. And then once the game is started, I guess that would be face down. I flip that over, flip these over, and kind of just bam, get an idea of what's going on. And so both players would unleash kind of their terrain here. I'd be able to play a basic troop like the Mercenary Archers in my castle here. Then pretty much the other person would go. I'd go and draw. I get extra rations. Don't remember what extra rations do, but I'm pretty sure extra rations allows me to place 2 basic troops at a time. And so I could go through, and I actually don't have 2 basic troops because these Rotten Bishops are dark troops. But I'll save that card for later. But say I wanted to put down Lightning Storm, I could put my Lightning Storm around that terrain, and anything in this area would then be subject to Lightning Storm's abilities. Opponent would go, I'd come back with this. Damn, I'm getting boring cards. But like, say, I guess I could shuffle this a little bit more, just for the sake of the argument. Not that this would actually be happening. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just pull 5 cards here. Building supplies. Damn. Oh my goodness. Determined Warriors. That would have been helpful last time. But you see, so I draw a card, and then I could choose to move. I got a movement of 1. This has a movement of 1. I can move that character forward. And then ultimately, other player goes. I go. Draw this, a Blood Sacrifice. I believe that's the cost card for a Dark Troop. And other player, and so then other player goes. I can go. I move that character up for 1. Other player goes. I go, draw the card. Man, I'm getting, and I keep on drawing, and I keep on moving, and I keep on doing things, and I'm just getting boring cards, honestly. Which might be an issue with me, or might be an issue with the fact that I didn't shuffle these correctly. But then I get an efficient strategy. I play an efficient strategy. I can use 2. I can move 2 troops at the same time. And let's just say, for instance, let's play the devil's advocate here. Other player moves in a Rotten Bishop, and it's right there. I don't know whether or not I want this. Oh, because this one says range 1. Oh yeah, because the range 1 means that it can attack into a 1 movement area. So this one could attack this without it necessarily being in the same group. Oh, that makes sense to me. Yeah, so right now it makes sense. So this one can attack this. It has an attack of 2. This has a defensive 1. This is but this one can't attack me because it's not in range, and so this one just gets taken care of. But for instance, if I was in the same area and I attacked with this card into this one, since it's in the same range as I am, it can attack back at me. So with its 3, it would take me out, and both these cards would go. Now, I have an idea. It sounds like a lot of games kind of have like a graveyard and a purgatory or some sort of it's like the discard pile, but then like a banishment pile where like cards are gone for good. And I'm thinking I want to do something similar. The discard pile being kind of like the ground where like you bury things there, but they can be resurrected, and then the abysmal plane or whatever it is where like the cards are like out of play entirely. And so I think I'd have a similar process where there's both a graveyard and like a discard pile and a banishment pile. And of course, I don't know if those are trademarked. I have no clue. I'm waiting for the cease and desist. But I mean, overall, that's the goal of this. And as you'd be going through, if this was able to be leveled up, and I end up pulling a 2 out of an expanded version of King Terrence, I could play him on there, adjusting how I play my game. And so I'm really hoping that this makes sense to somebody. But also, that's kind of how I want the game to work. I'm still trying to write down all the rules that I have, and but I mean, I felt like I had so much, and so I don't know if I have to strip this down to the studs again to kind of recreate this idea and just kind of go off of the idea of it, or if I can actually remember how I wanted this game to play and build from there. But I'm hoping that makes sense to at least somebody, kind of how this game works. I'm hoping as more rules get remembered, I can write things down and make a better idea. But I honestly feel like the best way for me to figure out how this is going to work out is just trial and error, playing it over and over again, which means a lot of games with myself, which is just kind of how it normally is. But nonetheless, I'm pumped for this, and I'm hoping this little rules session makes a little sense. And we'll go from there. We'll see what we can find. But I'll see you in the next episode when I get more work done.